Well, today we're going to start the actual design of the Italian Access Redo box. And I'm going to use two tools. I'm going to use TurboCAD, number one, and that's going to be for my general drawing, and I'm just so used to it, I like to do that tool to put together the basic design. Then we're going to move over to LightBurn, and in LightBurn we're going to assign the layers, we're going to assign the speeds, and we're going to assign everything else we need to do the laser cuts. So it should be fun, and the techniques that you may or may not learn during this process could easily, you can produce a ton of other designs very easily, but we're going to talk about these two. Now, one of the things that I really do miss, I used to be able to drink a lot of coffee. Now I'm not allowed to have any coffee, just plain water. So this is early in the morning, so just bear with me. Okay, so today we're starting to do the Italian Redo box, the XS box. And I'm going to be doing it in two steps. The first one is in TurboCAD, which is my drawing program. And then I'm going to move over to LightBurn. You can do most of what I'm doing here in LightBurn, but I like TurboCAD because it's a little bit easier to do the replicating patterns that I'm going to be doing. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is drawing some boxes. And that's going to represent my front, sides, and top of my thing, of my box. So I'm going to do a rectangle, and let's see what we're going to do here. I'm going to set it up so that the size is going to be 248 millimeters by 120 millimeters. Okay, so that gives me my sides, my front. Okay, now I'm going to do the sides, and I'm just going to do a copy and then paste. And this will be my sides. So the only thing that changes is that the X size is going to be 162 millimeters. And I'm going to make another one of these, so I'll make a copy of that. And now I've got my front, my side, and my other side. All right. So now the next thing we got to do is do the top. So I'm going to do another one that's down here. And this one's going to be, let's see, around 279 millimeters. Oops, not inches, millimeters. Followed by 146 millimeters. Okay, so everything's done there. Now I'm going to do the designs I'm going to put in there. So I moved over to a fresh part of the screen. Now the Access uses circles, and the circles, when they're trimmed, will produce the design that we want to for the redo. So we're going to start off by doing a couple of circles. So the simple one is going to be, I'm just going to pick any point here, it doesn't really matter, and I'm going to do 2.25 in circle. That's the size I like. Okay, then I'm going to pick the center again, and this time I'm going to do a 1.75 circle. So now I have the inner and outer circles. All right, so now let's replicate this a little bit to get a pattern that we want. So In order to get the pattern started, first thing I'm going to do is do an edit, transform, move, and then I'm going to make sure that my duplicate symbol here is set, and I'm going to do a step of 2 inches, which is the difference between 2.25 and 1.75, and I'm going to do a Y step of -2. Okay. And then the next thing I'm going to do is a positive step of 2, and then I'm going to do a -2 and a -2, and that gets me my patterns. Okay, so if you want to take a quick look at it, it almost looks like it's coming in. We got to do one more step. We're going to take this one, this bottom one, and we're going to move it 1 and 1. Okay, so now I think you can start seeing that we've got this round part here, which is your going to be this pattern, and we have our diamond over here down below. So I'm going to use this part, and I'm going to use this part. So before, let's see what we got here. Okay, so right at this point over here on the center part, I think I'm going to put a marker. So I'm going to insert a marker, and I'm going to insert a cross at the grid. Okay, that's just for my reference. You'll see why later. Okay, now we need to remove all the functions here so that we get our diamond and our ellipse. And that's pretty simple. So let's start by doing a modify split. And then we do this intersection, intersection. This one, intersection, intersection. This one, intersection, intersection. And this one, intersection, intersection. So now we can remove all of those. But before we do, yeah, let's go ahead and remove those. So we don't need this anymore. We don't need that anymore. We don't need that. We don't need that. Okay, so we got it down to our purest one. Now let's go ahead and finish some of these. Oh, we can probably remove this outer one too. Okay, now we can remove what we need here. So let's do a modify split, and now this one is at intersection, intersection, and this one's at intersection, intersection. And now let's remove those pieces of material. We don't need those anymore. And let's bring it up a little bit. Okay, so we got our start and ellipse. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is join these two together if we can. So modify, join polyline, right click, finish join polyline. Okay. Okay, almost done. So just a few more quick steps here. This is the basis for a lot of things that we're going to be doing in the future. You can make stars, you can make flowers, you can do everything you want. But in here, we're going to be doing a little bit of a sideways rotation. So in order to get that accomplished, and that's why I have my reference point, I'm going to change the reference point of my ellipse to the previous center of the circle. Now I'm going to take Edit, transform rotate, make sure that I'm on my z-axis and I have a duplicate, and I'm going to go 90 degrees. Let's do another 90 degrees and the last 90 degrees. Okay, that gives us pretty much our standard pattern that I'm going to be looking for. Now the other thing I want to do is I want to make sure that the pattern works. So I'm going to select the diamond that I got here, and I'm going to have to join this one as well. Modify join, finish join. Okay, so that is joined, and I'm going to move this guy to the center here. So I'm going to do an edit, transform, move, and I'm going to do -1 and +1, which is half the distance we've been working with, remember? And that gets us our pattern. Okay, now let's get rid of the cross because we don't need that anymore. We're done. So back up a little bit, and now we want to build our patterns up. So we got the basic pattern all set up here. So now we want to do edit, transform, move, and this time we're going to do 2 inches down. Oops. I went the wrong direction, but that'll work. Do another 2 inches up then. Okay, and that gives us that pattern. So now you can see the redo pattern showing up. Now all we have to do is move it across. So edit, transform, move, and we're going to repeat this pattern. So I'm going to move it 2 inches to the right. I'm going to move it another 2 inches to the right. And we're going to keep this up for a little bit. And I'm just going to slide this over a little bit. 2 inches. 2 inches. 2 inches. That should be enough, I think, to cover what I need to do. All right, so let's do that and take a look at our pattern. This is the redo pattern. Now we don't need these on the bottom, so I'm going to take those out. So, okay. And these two on the edges we probably won't need either, so I'll take those two out. Oh wow, see what the pattern looks like? Really nice. Okay. So let's see, I think I also did a little bit too many over here, so I'm going to trim some of these off. Okay. So now I can move this guy. To the center. Let's see where the center of the box is. Okay. Let's do that again. All right. And now it's just a little bit too big, so let's just scale it down to maybe 0.9. 0.9. And it fits in very nicely. So that could be our pattern that we want. We get that one. Okay, so we'll take that on the top. Now over here, the pattern's a little bit different. So we're going to copy this guy, move him over here and copy him. But I really don't need this whole pattern. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to eliminate that. Now I have 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to eliminate that. and I only need 2. So let's see what we got here. 1, 2. So I can eliminate all of these guys on the bottom. And that's the pattern that I'm going to have for the front. So let's find a reference point here and get it to a place where it makes sense. Okay, and now we'll take that. Put it to there. Okay, now here there's only room for 2, so let's get this one and let's move this over to the side, and we only want 2 showing up here, so I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to get rid of that. Okay, and that should fit. Let's see where we are here. Okay. Move that up to a point, and we want to center this one. Okay, that looks good. I'm just going to get rid of that because it's easier just to copy this one and bingo. So I have my top, I have my front, and my 2 sides. So does that look good? Well, actually, no. I'm going to have a problem with this. Well, let's look at this again. So let's get on to this guy. We got a problem here because we got our joints are going to stick into this, and that's not something we want. So let's reduce this down to 2. So we can do that very easily by just chopping this guy. Now let's move him over to the center. Okay, so since the joint is going to be sticking out about a ½ inch here, now I think this will look better. So okay, so that finishes our design in TurboCAD. So let's save that away, and I'm going to save that away as a DXF because I can import that into LightBurn, and I'm going to, let's say DXF, and I'm going to do front, sides, and top. Okay, so now we can move over to our LightBurn and complete the job there. Okay, so we did our design already, so let's import it into LightBurn. So I'm going to do an open, and I'm going to look for DXF, and there's my front, sides, and top I just did. So let's bring that in. Okay, that's our patterns right now. So let's assign our colors and our layers. So first thing we're going to do is assign the insides here to a fill layer. And the fill layer I'm going to set up for 105 millimeters per second at 25 watts with 1 pass. And that'll burn my inset. And let's do the same thing for here. Set that up to layer 5. And let's set this guy up to layer 5. Okay, so that's our burn cycle for the insets. But now we got to bring out the inlays. So we always do this as a separate. Now the size of this is not the same as the size of these. So you got to be very, very careful with that. Otherwise, the pieces won't fit. So let's start off with, we know that this and this are the same sizes. I'm going to burn 2 of these, and I'm going to burn one of these. So one of the things you need to do is take out all of these, and I'm going to do a Control D for duplicate and move that up out of the way. And then I'm going to take these, do a Control duplicate, and move them down out of the way. I'm going to take these, Control duplicate, and move them up. Now since they're the inlay, not the inset, I'm going to take those and I'm going to assign them to my red layer. Now the red layer is going to be a line, so I'm going to do a line around, and let's take a look and see what I got here. I have a kerf offset of 0.004, so it's going to go a little bit bigger, and what that does is it gives me a nice tight fit when I put this thing back in. And for the thickness of what I am cutting, which is approximately a little over 1/16 of an inch in the wood, I'm going to use a speed of 18 millimeters per second, and I'm going to do a max power of 30. And I think that will take care of my system. So we have 1830, 2 passes, and a kerf of 0.004. And down here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to set that up to my red layer. So now I have almost all my objects. But this would be very difficult to cut because if you look at the final product, these are made out of one material, these are made out of another. So the best way to do this is to group them. So I'll just do one set over here, and that will suffice. So I'll just take all of the ones that are the diamonds, and make sure you gather them all, because otherwise you'll be short. Do a Control D, and then move those out of the way. Let's go there. Shrink it down a little bit, bring it. Okay, and then all you have to do is just get them a little bit closer together. Because when you cut them, you're going to cut them all at once. So you get the general idea now. So do that for the diamonds. Do that for the ellipses the same way. You got to move them out of the way and do them. And you do it separately for the top. You do it separately for the sides and the front. Just remember, different sizes. Make sure you don't intermix them because they won't fit together. And that's really about it. Now I'll show you my final thing in a second. Now this is my final that I came up with after I moved things around a little bit. I doubled this even though I didn't need to. Oh, I actually got extras in here. Let's get rid of those before. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so yeah, I replicated those. I moved all my diamonds and ellipses into groups. So now it should be a lot easier to go ahead. Now you notice I also did this. And what I did here is this is a test case. So when I put my piece of wood down, before I burn a regular pattern, I'll burn just this one object. And that will tell me whether or not I have the correct setting for my speeds and feeds. Okay, so I bored you enough for today. Tomorrow we're going to go ahead and do the burning and assembly of the box and finals. So should be the exciting day when the Italian redo box actually comes into existence. Thank you for listening to me.